Rich Aurilia. Rich, first off, thank you very much for doing it. I'll let you know, I've spent much of the first 2.5 hours of our show really expressing frustration at the state of the Giants organization. It really feels embarrassing, quite frankly, when the Dodgers are in town the way this looks. Talk me off of this, or do you think I'm right where I should be?
Well, I think the three of us, if Dibs is there, should go to that schedule release party, because that sounds like more fun to me than talking about this stuff right now.
Amen.
Ain't no party like a schedule release party where everyone is 0-0 and you can dream about an undefeated year, Rich.
I agree with you, man. Yeah, it's been a little frustrating, I think, and I can't just say this year. It's been frustrating, I think, for a few years for Giants fans. Honestly, can all the fault go on the front office? I don't think so. I feel like they've tried to sign some players that they just can't sway them their way. And, when you look at this year, listen, they signed some quality big league players, but, guys are hurt, guys aren't performing. It literally is, almost like a Sacramento team out there playing right now against the Dodgers. So, yeah, it's frustrating. Am I ready to throw in a towel? No. But I will say this. I think one of the things that happened in the last few years, and I've heard a couple people comment on this now, was the fact that, in 21, they win 107 games. And, and listen, I give them credit for doing that. But at the same time, everything that possibly could have went right that year went right with the 21 team. And when you kind of don't make any moves to back that up, you lose Gosman or you don't sign him back, and then you take a step back, I give the team credit for winning that many games in 21, but, pretty much the same team the next year, and, they weren't even close to that. So I think it's a work in progress right now, guys. I'm as frustrated as anybody else.
Yeah, and the frustrating part, Mark and I have been talking about, is the fan reaction as well, where you have a lot more blue than you do have seemingly orange and black in the crowd. And my frustration, Rich, lies mainly in the inability to develop position players. And, going back to when you were coming up in the 90s, it doesn't feel like there's been a ton of them since then to now. Where is the problem lie as far as the Giants being able to develop positional players in the farm?
I don't know. Usually when when you're a team like the Giants and you play in that ballpark, yeah, you're going to have to overpay for free agent hitters, and you'll probably, get some pitchers as free agents that wouldn't mind coming to pitch there, because it's a pitcher's park. But when you go back to the idea of, drafting and, getting your own guys, I don't even know anymore at this point in time what the level looks like, or what I'm trying to say, I guess, is like, how do you judge the talent that you're bringing in and drafting? Because, I think there's limited scouts out there, and everything's done by analytics now. And, I remember when I was playing, it was all about, what tools did a guy have? What was his makeup? Was he a gamer? Was he a grinder? And I don't know if that exists anymore. And I'm not saying they don't do that, but they really, haven't had any stellar position players come out of the minor league system, probably since like Crawford, Belt, and Posey did. So I don't know what to say. Elliot Ramos looks kind of good to me right now, and maybe he's finally going to get his chance. But I don't feel like I don't have the knowledge on their minor league and scouting system to really answer that question, because I don't know how they evaluate talent anymore, whether it's by the eye or by the numbers.
Rich Aurilia with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Rich, even you mentioning there that everything is done by analytics, and that's not just the Giants by any stretch, but I do think the loss of that human feel between front office and clubhouse can be really difficult to manage. How, based on your eyes and following the organization, how would you describe that right now with this team, the relationship between the front office and the clubhouse?
I don't think it's a bad relationship. I just think that a lot of, as far as the players go, listen, the players will take, their point of accountability. They'll take accountability. I mean, you got guys that they're signed this year that aren't playing well. I mean, you got, Matt Chapman's not hitting the ball. Blake Snell's been injured, and when he's out there, he hasn't, played really well. I mean, so you have some guys that, have some guys that just haven't performed. Soler. But as far as the relationship with the front office, I just feel like sometimes, maybe the team feels like they need a little help, and maybe they go out and make a move. And when I say that is, try and make a move to get somebody that might be of relevance, that might help this team right away, right now, and maybe not a guy off the waiver wire or something like that, because we've seen that for a number of years with this front office, and some of them have worked out. A lot of them haven't, but none of them have really been a home run, right? So you kind of want to see, could the Giants have gotten Luis Arias before the Padres? I don't know. I don't know what they were looking for in the trade, but, I mean, that guy's won a couple batting titles, and, I'm sure he would have fit in somewhere on this team. So it's a great question you pose, and again, I don't have a definitive answer for that. I feel like right now this may be an organization with more questions than they have answers.
And do you start to ask the questions now, or is it, giving these guys a little bit more rope to figure out exactly what you have? Because ultimately, Rich, you're only 2.5 out in the wild card. Is it too early yet to panic about this Giants roster?
I think it is. I mean, with the new playoff format and how many teams make it, listen, you pretty much probably knew when the season started you were playing for second or third place in the division. I mean, the Dodgers are just a monster. And, even when they're not playing their best, they're a monster. So looking forward here, you do have so many injuries. And, if you can get some of these guys back and stay, kind of close in that wild card race and not try and do too much. I mean, the main goal right now should be to try and get it back as close to 500 as you can, day to day, just playing every game, one day at a time. But, they need to get some production out of this lineup. They need to get some better defense. They're looking forward to getting some pitchers back soon. But then again, you need the guys to perform. So, I feel pretty good tonight about Logan Webb on the mound. He normally pitches pretty well against the Dodgers. So maybe they could squeak a win out of this series. But, I don't think it's time to jump ship yet. I mean, it's still pretty early in the season. If you go on a run of winning 12 out of 15 or 12 out of 16, you're right back where you want to be.
Rich Aurilia with us here on Willard and Dibs. You talk about that gap between the Giants and the Dodgers, and everyone gets it, but I think we're also getting a little tired of just accepting it. If that's, in other words, if that's the symptom, what's the disease? What has led us to this point where it seems like the Dodgers do everything right and have all the resources, and the Giants don't?
Well, I just rewind the clock 8 years ago, right? The Giants coming off 3 World Series, and then, they falter a little bit in 16 to make the playoffs, lose to the Cubs. And then after that, it kind of fell flat a little bit. At the same time, I don't know at that point how many years in a row the Dodgers had been in the midst of winning the division or at least making the playoffs every year. And, when you have guys on a team like they have, in a market that they're in with the money that they're willing to spend, you're going to get the free agents. And, you get a Freddie Freeman, you get a Shohei Ohtani, you get the pitcher from Japan, you get Mookie Betts in a trade, right? So I think that's where I go back to, is just that consistent winning mentality that the Dodgers have put forth and put their best foot forward the last, I don't even know how many years it is, 10, 12 years. And the Giants coming off 3 World Series just have, kind of fallen back a little bit to the pack. And I don't know if there's anything wrong with that, but it just goes to show you, if you have deep pockets and, you're a winning team, you're going to get the quality players.
And you have to have deep resources to be able to make those trades, and the Dodgers have done a better job of building up the farm, and that was supposed to be one of Farhan's big benefits here with him as president of baseball ops. So do the Giants need to change their approach to drafting and international evaluations?
Well, I'm sure that, Farhan came from the Dodgers, right? I'm sure he's following the same model that they have. I don't know if they've hit on a bunch of guys that they thought they were going to, but, it just hasn't seemed to happen yet. And I don't know. I don't know when it would happen. I know we got some good young arms in the minor leagues right now, but, listen, they need to trade some of those guys to get something. And, I'm always of the belief, and I think this was, at least when I was there, Brian Sabian's mentality was like, hey, I'll always trade a prospect for a proven big league player, because the term prospect means, it means something. It means he hasn't proven anything yet at the big league level, where if you can trade a guy or two and get a proven big leaguer, I'm going to do that. And I think they possibly need to be more willing to do that moving forward in the future.
Rich, you played the position based on what you've seen. Do you think Marco Luciano can be a shortstop?
I think he can for the short term. He's kind of big, and I think he plays better at a corner position or a corner outfield spot. I think with him, if you ask me, first off, health, got to be healthy. And he's had a string of injuries over the past few years, whether it be hamstrings, back, or whatever it is. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And, then when he is, he's a prospect, right? You're looking ahead at what he could possibly do. But, if it's me, I want to see that dominant season in the minor leagues. Like, I want to see dominance for more than a week or two. It's got to be over a couple months period or season. And I don't think we've seen that yet from him. Do I think he's capable? Absolutely. I think he's capable. But in the long term, I don't know if he's built to play shortstop. He's built to be an athletic big league player. I just don't know if that'll be at shortstop for the long term.
What's interesting is it seems like everyone says what you just said, like maybe not long term. And I'm like, if that's the outlook, why have they not started to try him somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Listen, honestly, right now with the glut of injuries to outfielders, you could try working him out in the outfield during BP and just getting him a little more comfortable, because as we've seen with his roster the last few years, and we know how Farhan maneuvers the roster, they love the guys that can play multiple positions. So if you get him a little bit of work, whether it's at second base, third base, outfield, the better his stock's going to be with this organization. And then he's just going to have to prove that he could hit up here.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot of that from the youngsters coming up, and then, Casey Schmidt hitting down in Sacramento and not really showing an ability to hit here as well. If Luciano is going to play some minor league infield other than shortstop, you figure he would have done it by now. So how much time do you give him with the big club before you start to maybe realize that any of these guys aren't going to be able to make it? What's the at-bat total that they get, Rich, in your mind before you start to make definitive decisions?
It's very hard to come up with a number for a team that wants to compete, right? So this team wants to get back in the race. So it's very hard to say, like, oh, well, if they were, it's late in the year, whatever, let's get this guy 100 at-bats, see what he can do. That's different. Right now you're still in a mode of trying to get back on track, trying to get some players healthy and trying to win some games. And that's very hard to do consistently with somebody that doesn't prove themselves right away over a consistent period of time. So I would say during this time of the season, the number's shorter. The at-bats are shorter or, lower number. But as the season goes on, if you fall out of it, well, then why not see what they could do, right? I think the Giants are an organization that are, they're caught in between. They're kind of in purgatory, right? Where, the fans want them to win. They want them to go get all the big free agents, sign everybody. But then at the same time, when the performance isn't there, everybody wants them to tear it down. So they're in a very tough position. I'm not very enviable of the position that Farhan's in, because it is a tough position. But, only time will tell. And I think the quicker some of these, injury guys come back, the better it's going to be for this team. But in the interim, I mean, they don't really have a choice but to play some of these guys out there.
I'm not letting you get out of here today without a golf dad update. As a fellow golf dad, please, can you explain what happened earlier today?
No, dude, I've been 3 days in a row. I've been walking out at Stanford Golf Course out here. There was one of the NCAA regionals for Division I golf was out here. My son, Chaz, is a fifth year at SMU, and they basically, it came down to the last group today, Mark. It came down to the last group that was playing with the kid from my son's team, Ole Miss, and Stanford. And Stanford and SMU made it by one stroke, and Ole Miss missed because the kid missed a birdie putt from like 10 feet. So it was very nerve wracking. I probably need a glass of wine right now,
Yep.
but it looks like I'll be heading down to San Diego in about 10 days or so.
Nice.
Dude, congratulations. What did he shoot today?
Today he was even. For the tournament, I think he was 1 under. It played pretty tricky out here. It was a little windy, and it played tricky. But you know what? It lives to fight another day, and he's a fifth year, so this will be his last year. So I'm glad he gets the opportunity to, go and play nationals again. He's played once before with the University of Arizona. Now I get to go with SMU.
Does he have pro prospects? Is he thinking about giving it a go, or is this going to do it for him as far as competitive golf goes at this level?
No, he has aspirations to try and get a tour card somewhere, probably in the fall, because that's when they do a lot of the qualifying. So I think he's going to stay amateur through the summer, and based off of his world amateur golf ranking, he qualifies for some pretty good amateur events this summer. So in between my covering the Giants, I'll be traveling to watch some more golf tournaments.
It's so
Awesome.
good. Is there anything worse than watching someone else stand over a 5-foot putt that you care about?
Oh, dude, it's the worst because you can't control it, and it's like that in between distance.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man, but fortunately it worked out for them today, and they were pretty out of it after day one, and they came back yesterday as a team and shot like 15 or 16 under, so they got back into it, and they finished up strong today.
Love it. Congrats to your son, to you as well, Rich. Thank you so much for hopping on a busy day.
All right, guys, have a good one, man.
Okay.
Yep.